And we are live. So, yep, another live chat with the Godless. And tonight we have David Smalley from Dogma Debate. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, David, for those of you who, for those of us there who don't know you yet, could you just tell us a little bit about your background, how you became the David Smalley from Dogma Debate? What's your journey?
Yeah, people might know me from my alter ego, Aaron Raw. I have this YouTube channel where I talk about science and put on a really awesome
Put
hat.
a wig.
And I scare the hell out of creationists with my awesomeness. That's what I really do in my full time. No. So no, Aaron is an awesome guy. I love Aaron. We at Dogma Debate focus on civil conversations with people we disagree with. It's just that simple.
Which is the hardest thing to do.
It is hard. And I had this conversation earlier this afternoon in that, look, sometimes someone will be sitting and I'm in my Dogma Debate studio now. Someone will be sitting across from me and they will say something horrific. Like there'll be a pastor and they'll say, well, David, why do you want to protect the rights of gays? I mean, they're basically pedophiles. They're out there harming children. Okay. When you hear that happen, I want you to know inside my brain, I want to jump over this table and slap them. I do. I feel that urge to say, are you kidding me? And just lose it. I just want to lose my shit. But people say, oh, I see them tweeting to me all the time. You have the patience of a saint. In fact, the other day, someone said they're no longer going to say patience of a saint. They're going to start saying you have the patience of a Smalley, which I thought was funny. But ultimately, I realized talking with some folks today, what keeps me so grounded during those moments. And a lot of listeners will take that as, oh, you're not holding them accountable or you're not fighting. You're not, it's not that. It's that I'm keeping the bigger picture in mind. I have a bigger goal, and my big goal is to ultimately convince that person to be on our side. Because think about for a moment if we could sit down with ISIS, and I don't have to shoot at you or have you shoot at me. I don't have to bomb you or have to worry about you bombing me or you killing innocent people in a mall somewhere. Imagine if I had enough time with ISIS to ask them questions about their religion and ask them why they think when they die they're going to see 72 virgins. Where's the evidence for that? Where do these stories come from? If we had enough of them realize that what they were fighting for was completely false and that they weren't going to see those 72 virgins, they were going to die. Their team members may start to dissipate the team. And once they start to disintegrate, the threat goes away. No matter how many bombs or guns there are available, they no longer have the desire to use them. In America, pastors use that type of stuff all the time. They use legislation. They use vitriolic language. They use horrible insults to gays.
And basic fear tactics,
Religious
right?
people. Absolute fear mongering. So rather than take that as a shot to me and fire another shot back across the table, I take the shot. It hits me. It hurts. But I think about the bigger picture. If I jump down this guy's throat, or in fact jump over the table and bitch slap him, he's probably never coming back here. Not only that, his walls are going to be up and he's going to be so focused on defending his view, it's not going to matter if his view is correct anymore.
No, not only that, he's going to double down on what he was saying.
Absolutely. He's going to dig in and go to great, ridiculously stupid lengths to try to defend himself. So what I do is I'm thinking about the bigger picture to go, look, if I can ask you enough questions, when you say something horrific like that, I'm going to say something like, I'm going to say, do you understand how that could be offensive to people? And when they say, well, no, that's who they are pedophiles. Okay. Why do you believe they're pedophiles? Well, because if a man messes with a little boy, they both have penises, that's homosexuality. Are you familiar with the science behind it? Well, no, I'm not a scientist. Okay. Well, there are research studies that show, in fact, that's not the case. It's heterosexual males that are far more likely to be sexual predators. Were you aware of that? No, I didn't know that. That's okay that you didn't know that. Let's move on to something else. You know what? I got a great book you can read about it. Here's the title of the book. Let's move on to something else. You identified a point where they were ignorant, they were missing knowledge. You provide a solution for that knowledge and move on to something else. You don't jump up and down and say, that's why you shouldn't have an opinion on this shit because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I want to say that stuff too, but I know long-term that's not going to be productive.
And you can turn them into multipliers of that knowledge, right?
Yep. And a lot of people, when you say that, are going to go, but you're never going to get people like Eric Hovind or Ken Ham or Cy Ten Bruggencate. You're never going to get these guys to understand, maybe I'm just naive enough to believe that I can. Maybe I do think with enough time.
And maybe you don't have to reach them. I mean, if you get enough people around them, and then they're going to, you know, their power is going to start dissipating, just like ISIS, you know, in your story. And that's why I relate so much to what you're doing, because I get questioned all the time on what the goals of the documentary are. And basically what we're trying to do is the same thing. Because, and this is why I chose not to enter in that debate or of trying to disprove God, or my idea is for someone religious to watch the film and not be offended. I want them to watch the film. I'm not making a film for atheists only. Of course, I want atheists to watch it, and I think it's important. But a lot more important than that is for religious people to watch it and walk out of the movie theater or whatever, where they choose to watch it, and say, well, you know what? Maybe I was a little bit intolerant towards someone that didn't deserve it. So, and the only way I can do that is by being non-confrontational.
Right.
I mean, as much as we can, you know, but
I mean, I don't like the term non-confrontational because
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because I will confront you. I will confront you. I will hold you accountable for your bullshit. I will. And the more I know you, the more likely I am to just call it bullshit and go, come on, that sounds like total bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with you. Non-confrontation was a poor choice of words, but
what I don't do is attack the individual, or probably more successfully, I don't let their attacks affect me personally. I take it, like just the other day, Eric Hovind was on Dogma Debate, and he said, hey, look, I was an unbeliever at one point, and when I was an unbeliever, I did unbeliever things. You know, I stole things, I lied, I cheated. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's stop and talk about that for a minute. He just wanted to keep talking and just pack that under the rug. No. Hold on. Why do you believe that's what unbelievers do? Why do you're insulting everyone who's an unbeliever because you were a shitty person at one time? Doesn't mean everyone who is a non-believer is also a shitty person. And so usually I'll follow that with a question like, okay, it's wonderful for you that religion helped you come out of being a bad person. Wonderful. Do you think it's possible for someone to not have a relationship with any deity at all, realize that what they're doing isn't productive to society, and correct those issues without a belief in a deity? Every time they go, sure, of course they can. Okay. Then you have your path. Someone else has their path, and those paths don't have to be the same. But what that does tell us is that your God, your belief, your religion is not necessary to be a good person. It's not necessary. There's ways to be a good person without it. And I think that's what this film does a good job of showing, is that these people, you know, if you think about atheism and you think about gothic or something that's scary or something with horns, you're really going to be, your eyes are going to be opened in this film to go, wait a minute, that guy looks like my mechanic. And that woman reminds me of the librarian that I grew up with, you know, that was wonderful. And more than anything, I hope this film makes people realize, wait a minute, I thought that I didn't know any atheists when I walked into this theater. And now I realize, based on the statistics alone, I see an atheist every day. I just don't realize it. Well, why? And that's what I said in the film. Most of us are just afraid to tell you. And I think that's changing. And that's the good part. I hope I say that in the film. I forgot what I said now, but I hope I say that I'm not afraid, and more people are not afraid. And hopefully this film will do a better job of making people stand up and go,
well, you know, I'm already concerned because some of the statistics that that I was planning on using, for instance, the political rejection to an atheist candidate, we might have a big surprise coming, very shortly. Just the fact that, for instance, Bernie Sanders got where he got. Barack Obama had mentioned, non-believers in his speech. He didn't say "God bless America" in one. So, I mean, for instance, here in Brazil, for instance, which is a backwards country and the largest Catholic country in the world, a survey came out a few months ago with the millennials, age 18 to 34, and they go 34% are still Catholic, 15% evangelical, 6% have faith but don't follow any religion, and 25% are hardcore atheists.
Wow.
In Brazil. So I mean, this is happening. I mean, every day now, and these kids, they have YouTube. Just like you said something that stuck in my mind. It's really funny. Like when you were a kid and your parents will tell you about, it was raining for 40 days and 40 nights and the ark and all that shit. But now you run something like this by a 13-year-old and it goes like click, click, bullshit. So, I mean, there's no stopping it, right?
Yeah.
So I see that changing a lot, and that's why I said that. Well, maybe there's this piece of information that I've been holding for like I don't know, maybe 2 years since I started the research. It won't hold up when the movie comes out, which would be wonderful. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, And
No, I think a long time ago I started predicting that within about 100 years, this job won't be necessary. Making films like this won't be necessary. It'll be like making a film about why it's important to breathe oxygen. Yeah, no shit. Everybody knows that. It's not a big deal, right? Why would you make a movie about that? Why would anybody want to see it? And it's kind of crazy being in a profession where our job is to work ourselves out of a job. If we're ultimately successful, the two of us and this entire community, if we're successful in doing what we're doing, our job is to work ourselves into uselessness. So for me, that's why I've broadened Dogma Debate to not just be about religion, because I see that this company, Secular Media Group, that I've built, this radio show, Dogma Debate, which is now syndicated on 4 radio stations in the Midwest.
Yeah, congratulations on that. Yeah, that's awesome.
And more stations are working to pick it up. So I think by the time the film comes out, there's going to be a lot more. Hopefully. But in the end, I'm glad I called it Dogma Debate, because atheists have dogma too, and Democrats have dogmas too, and Republicans have dogmas too. So it doesn't really matter what your dogma is. I want to bring
nature,
and I want to challenge you, and I want to say, look, I'm always willing to be a believer in whatever you believe. Just convince me. And my original idea for the show was called Convert Me. And I was just going to give everybody an opportunity. Oh, you're Wiccan? Tell me why I should be Wiccan too. And if you say I don't give a shit if you're Wiccan, this show isn't for you, right? If you don't care, it's not for you. But I want to invite you to convert me to your way of thinking. And so that's really what this is about. And so dogma doesn't have to stop at religion. And look, if you think atheists don't have dogma, you've never seen my inbox.
Now, going back to something that you said, first of all, just wanted to say, guys, if you're watching, just let us know you're there, where you're from. If you have any questions, please shoot it. I just wanted to go back to something that you said that I think is really interesting and important in the debate itself, and I think that you particularly is like one step ahead of the usual discussion, which is people say, I don't disrespect the person, I disrespect the belief, or I have problems with the belief. But then they forget, as you mentioned in the interview, they forget that to these people, their belief are an intrinsic part of their self.
Right.
So even attacking their belief, you still have to do it lightly and in a very sensitive way. But people tend to go at it. Well, since I'm not attacking him particularly, I can just go full throttle,
Right.
right?
Right.
So this is one of the things that you said that really struck me. Like, yeah, you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Well, because when you're an atheist, and this is a difficult thing to get believers to understand. This is where I've had a hard time with believers. But if you can get them to understand this, it's going to be smooth sailing for a lot of your issues. It's that once you become an atheist, you have successfully separated yourself from the group psychology effect of being ingrained within a belief system. And so you can say, yes, I consider myself an atheist, but I am not atheism. Like, you don't identify as that. That is who identifies me, right? That is what my makeup is. No, atheism is an answer to one question. That doesn't mean I'm a good skeptic. It doesn't mean I'm a scientist. It doesn't mean I understand biological evolution. It doesn't.
And that's why in the Scandinavian countries, people don't even feel the need of defining themselves as being atheist, because you don't have religion as present.
Look, it doesn't mean I'm a good parent. It doesn't even mean I'm rational.
Yeah.
It just means when it comes down to the belief in a deity, I lack that belief. I don't believe any of that stuff. That's it. So these people go, no, atheism is about science. No, it's not. Atheism is about humanism. No, no, no. That's called humanism. That's a separate thing. So people try to get, Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe the same thing. They practice the same thing. They dress the same way. They develop these rituals. And so they feel like if you attack anything in the Jehovah's Witness doctrine, you're attacking me, because they've replaced a part of themselves with the part of the group. And that's how group psychology works. Go to any football game where it's 12 degrees outside and people are standing outside with their shirts off with Broncos painted across their chest. Okay. You wouldn't do that in your front yard by yourself, right? Why? Why do you do this in the crowd? Well, because the crowd's ego takes precedent over the personal ego. The crowd's temperature takes precedent over your temperature. So you would rather take your shirt off and show what a crazy fanatic you are, which is where the word fan comes from. Show what a crazy fanatic you are that you're willing to do this. Why? Group psychology. It's the same reason if you watch a stand-up comedian by yourself at home on Netflix, you might smile and chuckle a little. But if you go watch that same comedian in a crowd of people, you laugh out loud. Why is that? Because we're all a part of group psychology in some respects. And so as an atheist, we've broken that chain, at least in one group, which is in the religious group. So we've separated our belief system from who we are. So if someone attacks atheism, we don't take it personally. We go, okay, well, you don't agree with that, but I do agree with that. It's out here. It's out front, right? For the religious person, they are that belief. I did a film with John Christie in 2013 called My Week in Atheism. And in that film, he's a believer. In that film, he says, I am that religion.
Yeah.
Got offended by me saying something about the religion. I said, it's oppressive to women. It's oppressive to gays. He's like, you're saying that. I am that belief. I am that religion. He got very offended. And that was the moment in the film. And I'm telling you, when it happened, that you watch my face in that moment, that's when I realized he hasn't let go of the fact that his belief is outside of him. It's a part of his group psychology. So when I say your religion is oppressive to women, that's a personal attack to him. Now, Sam Harris, Dave Silverman, they will say, well, you attacked his belief, not the person. I agree with you. You attacked the belief, but what you don't understand, Sam Harris and Dave Silverman, is that you shot at the belief and the belief is hiding inside the person. So you shot at the belief correctly, but you don't realize that when the bullet hit, it went into that person's psyche. It went into their emotional connection. And I think guys that are firebrand over the top kind of out there, I think they're missing that one component. You don't intend on attacking the person, but you are without even trying to. And that's what I want us as a whole to do a better job of.
Just like, it happens the other way around. I mean, we're just trying to tell religious people that sometimes they can be, offensive without even noticing it, because just by saying that religion is a beautiful thing and that finding God is the way to be a better person, you automatically saying that whoever doesn't have that God in his heart is not necessarily a good person. I just wanted to acknowledge here, Revan said, well, I know that as a fact because I spent 30 years as a Jehovah's Witness. Astrocar said, Revan, glad you made it out. Dave Astrocar said David does an awesome job of picking his battles. This is like from earlier on. And Joe said that would be amazing. Maybe a spin-off game show about the Convert Me.
I would love to.
Yeah. Reverend said, thanks. It took long enough, but at least I am out. We all grateful for that. And Astrocar, I'm passively out as an atheist. I'm out as much as I can in Central Texas. There you go. Now, we were talking about groups, right? And before we went live, we were talking about the groups within the groups. And so we were talking about how to approach people on, let's call it the other side, like the believers side, people that some see as like the antagonists. And when we enter any kind of debate within the atheist community, we find so much bickering and so much, atheists calling agnostics cowards and pussies, and agnostics saying, I don't know, you're too obnoxious because you cannot know, blah, blah, blah. What's your take on that?
Well, there's a couple of different issues. The agnostic atheist thing I'll address first because it's the most simple for me, which is, agnostics will say atheists are obnoxious because, oh, you claim knowledge, and atheists will say agnostics are, just, a weakling with an insurance policy trying to say there might be a God in case Jesus rolls back the clouds and comes flying in on his white Pegasus, that you can go, hey, I didn't say there wasn't a God. And he's going to be like, get on my horse. You're okay. I mean, both positions are really just built on faulty definitions of words, simply. If most atheists, the vast majority of atheists, would technically be defined as agnostic atheists. We're all in the same group here. And agnostics who just claim dogmatic agnosticism. I'm so dogmatic in the fact that I don't know. Don't include me in a group. I have one question for you. What God do you believe in? You don't know if there's a God. Okay. You've dealt with knowledge. My question is in your belief. What God do you believe in? If you don't know if a God exists, that means you don't believe in a God. You don't know if one might be out there. Me too. There might be something out there that I could be proven in some future. I'm right there with you. When it comes to my knowledge, I admit that there's knowledge missing for me. I'm without that knowledge. That puts me from a knowledge perspective in the agnostic category. But there's another category called belief. Based on the knowledge you do have, which God do you worship? If the answer is none of them, I have bad news for you. You're an atheist.
Exactly. And it all comes back.
You were without a theism.
It all comes back to the fact that people don't own to the term. I mean, people are afraid to say, and by doing that, you're playing by their rules. People that for decades wanted to ingrain in this word something terrible. And you see that by that reaction. And people say, well, I don't believe it, but I'm not an atheist. They just jump on their seats to state that they're not an atheist. I mean, and the way I see it, it's like non-believers and believers. I mean, if you want to call it, no, I'm skeptic, but I'm free thinker or whatever. Okay, but you're not a believer, so why don't we just, we suffer already from, from the other side. I just want to acknowledge Josh, because he just had to leave. So hi, Michael and Dave. Can stay and watch because I'm driving, but just letting you know I support you guys. I watch the replay ASAP. So Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. So yeah, I really find it interesting because we have our Facebook page, and I've been, whenever I can, I jump in and try to, cool things down. Sometimes I can, sometimes I cannot. But it just amazes me how people need smaller groups within their groups so they can either feel important or,
Yeah, before we move on to that, I wanted to say there's an old clip floating around of George Carlin on, and I don't remember the name of the show at the time. I don't know if it was Real Time or what, with Bill Maher, but it's on my Facebook if people are interested, or you could just Google or go to YouTube and type in George Carlin on Bill Maher.
Politically incorrect, maybe, yeah.
Yes, something. And so, yeah, it might have been politically correct. It was a long, long time ago.
Mhm.
or sorry, politically incorrect. You're right. And there's this woman on there, and George is doing an amazing job, like he always did, of just lying it out and just it's ridiculous. There's no point in the belief. He's so firebrand, but he's so awesome at it. And it's a pleasure to watch. And then this woman keeps defending and arguing against him, saying you need something to believe in. You have to have something. Well, I've done this long enough to see or to know what she's doing. She's projecting. What she's doing is she agrees with what George is saying, but she doesn't want to let go of her belief. So she's saying you have to have something, right? Because she wants validation that her belief is important. And so he starts to question her a little, and she's like, oh, no. I don't think God is a man in the sky. Because he's like, I don't believe some man in the sky. You're delusional if you think there's a man in the sky. And he's doing his firebrand thing. And she's like, no. I didn't say it was a man in the sky for me. For me, it's the universe. And he's like, oh, okay, now hold on. Why do you call that God? You're giving a label to call it the universe. Why are you saying God? And so she says she's taking a more sophisticated approach to it. And he calls it that as well. But he's like, there's no real reason to have to call that God. Well, why is she defending it then? Why doesn't she sit there quietly saying, for me, I believe everything George is saying, but for me, I call that God? Well, it's because we've ingrained two things in our society. One, atheist equals bad, period. Because Mark 9 and several other places in the Bible say if you're not with us, you're against us. So if you're not with God, you're against God, which means if you're not a believer, you must be for Satan trying to take them down. It's black and white thinking, which any therapist or clinical psychologist will tell you is not healthy, but this is what the Bible promotes. Either you're on our side or you want to take us down. So you're either a godly person, which is good, or an atheist person, which is bad. And this becomes this black and white thinking that our society has. So she wants to latch on to this thought of God.
And the Cold War played a big part in this too, right?
What's that?
The Cold War played a big part in it too, because atheism became equated with communism.
Right.
Yeah. The whole under God, and I think it had.
That's why I think people hold on to it. And so I would like to find that woman now and go, how do you feel about this now? How do you think about it? It was a long time ago. I'd like to know how she feels if she's still around. But I think what you were getting to is all of these little groups dividing up even within atheism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of things that people look at atheism and go, I can't believe this is happening. As my friend Jerry DeWitt says on the show, we're still susceptible to the human condition. Atheists are still susceptible to greed and to fighting with friends, not being skeptical, trusting someone before you know them very well just because they share atheism with you. So you think you can trust that person. So you give them money. And then when they have all this money, more money than they've ever had, when they have all this money before they've ever had before, and they don't know how to deal with it, they don't know how to operate with that money. That's a human condition. Someone suddenly comes across $300,000 that they've never had more than $2,000 in their bank account. That's not going to go very well, right? That's an issue. So we like to look at that and go, oh, well, that group psychology mindset. Christians will look over at the atheist community and go, well, of course that person stole money from this person because they're atheists. Well, when you ask them, why did this pastor steal money? Well, he's a sinner, and I'm sure he apologized and repented. That's what happens in group psychology. And look it up. Sigmund Freud wrote about it in 1921, and it's about people making excuses for their own groups, but condemning the actions of others as evil. Well, yeah, of course you did that because you're on the Cowboys. That's why you're a horrible person. That's why you committed that hold. Not because you're a player trying to make your millions of dollars and you didn't want to look bad on film tomorrow. No. There's no human aspect to this. You did it because you're a damn Dallas Cowboy and Cowboys cheat. Okay, that's the tribalism. That's the group mindset. So unfortunately, within atheism, we are still susceptible to tribalism and group mindsets and panic. Most of the stuff that's been going on recently, I honestly don't think it started out with anyone going, how can I ruin someone else's life? No, I don't think that was it. I think mistakes were made, and then they looked up and thought, oh gosh, I don't want my reputation to be ruined. So I have to start burying bodies in order to hide my screw up. And then you start committing crimes and doing ridiculous things and throwing people under the bus publicly and doing these horrible things because you don't want to ruin your reputation, right? You don't want to ruin what chance you have to be an activist full time or whatever it is. So I don't think even the people I've had on this show that I've slammed for doing stuff that's wrong and sneaky and lying, I don't think they set out that day to wake up and destroy anybody. I think they made some mistakes and panicked. And now that it's all out in the open, they just double down and dig in even deeper when they're called out instead of going, you got me. Here's the truth about what happened. And I think the faster we do that and the more people do that, I think the better off our society will be in general, because any group, whether it's car salesmen, theme park owners, it doesn't matter. Everybody has conferences and everybody deals with this crap inside their communities because we're all humans, even if we disagree about religion. So these things are about human conditions. They're not about atheism. And every group thinks they can do it better than the next group. And ultimately, I think that's okay because we're all working towards the same goal, and we need different avenues. Like, as much as I disagree with, say, Sam Harris or Dave Silverman on particular things, we're still 99% on board with each other. So let's put those things aside now and then, and let's put our differences aside, and let's work together to fight the common enemy who's on the other side trying to legislate religion, legislate behavior, legislate women's rights to their own bodies. Let's fight the common enemy.
Now, not going too much away from the subject, Astrokar is saying, is there another parallel to Astrokar first said, religion is an umbrella of knowledge of gods as well as a way to evaluate morality, ethics, however poorly they do. Atheism is a lack of being convinced there is a God. There is no rules of ethics in atheism. Humanism is the closest to an ethical system. And this is something that I find interesting. I wanted to know what you think about it. I can't remember if you talked about it when I interviewed you. Probably we did, because it's something that I was talking to lots of people. But just to acknowledging that Revan said humanism is the best and closest thing we have developed yet. Hopefully we will continue to improve upon humanism. But anyway, what I wanted to put on the table here is people find it, and they are uncomfortable describing themselves with a negation, atheism, agnostic. So they come up with humanism. My problem with it, or my question towards it, is by calling yourself a humanist and say humanism stands for blah, blah, blah. So respect all human beings. Aren't we doing the same things that religions do when they say we are good? Because one of the problems with religion that I see is that they hijack and they get a monopoly on some things like goodness, morality. So when humanism steps in and say, well, atheists are just people that don't stand for nothing, but I stand for this, aren't we separating ourselves again and saying, well, if this guy only says that he's an atheist, but I call myself a humanist, and I say that I'm like better than him because I care about other human beings, therefore I'm implying that he doesn't?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't know that I've ever heard, and this is my own circumstantial anecdotal evidence, but I don't know that I've ever heard a humanist call out someone who identifies as an atheist.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Because the two aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, I would say I don't know that I've ever met an atheist who is not also a humanist.
Exactly, but that's my point. And that's my point. It's implicit. You don't need someone.
It's not, because like I said at the beginning of this talk, atheism is the answer to one question. Believers come on my show and go, hey, you can't get any morality out of atheism. And I go, right. Huh? They were prepared to debate me on that, for me to say atheism provides some scale of goodness. It doesn't. Atheism's the answer to one question. Does my skepticism provide some scale of goodness and morality? No. My skepticism makes me call bullshit on things that don't have enough evidence and request evidence for things that are missing evidence. That's what skepticism does. Skepticism prevents me from automatically rejecting things and automatically accepting things. Both. That's what skepticism is. Humanism is what guides my life. Humanism, the basic principles of a humanist manifesto is the thing I can say I believe in. And no, we're not doing the same thing as religion. Because humanism says, here's what I believe is the best way to operate. Religion says, here's what I demand you to operate by. And that's different. Religions are demanding, I'm going to legislate based on my interpretation of ancient doctrine, how you are going to operate, how you are going to believe, how you're going to eat, what foods you're going to have, what direction that animal is facing when it's slaughtered. I'm going to, who's in your bedroom, how long they're in your bedroom. I'm going to regulate everything about your life because I know better, because me and that dude are best buddies. That's what religion does. Humanism says, here's a basic manifesto of how humans ought to treat one another in our belief. And this is how I'm going to live by. These are the things I'm going to live by. And I'm a certified humanist celebrant. So I can do weddings and I join people together in union. I can do same-sex weddings. I can do weddings of people who have different religious beliefs. We have someone who's Catholic and someone else who's Jewish, and they want to get married. And the Jewish family, of course, wants it to be in a synagogue, and the Catholic family, of course, wants it to be in a cathedral. And both of them think they're not really married unless they get married in their particular house of God. And the family
twice.
And the family goes, let's bring in the humanist celebrant who's not going to talk about religion at all and talk about how much we love one another. And I do believe in love. I do believe in taking care of each other. When you say, when religious people say, oh, well, you got to have, isn't there something bigger than all of us? Or sorry, isn't there something bigger than me? Is there something bigger than the human? Absolutely. That's what humanism is about. It's so often misunderstood that humanism is about the human. It's not about the human. What's bigger than the human is humanity. All of us together, the environment where humans live, how we treat one another. And with the I Am Fourth program through Dogma Debate, we take that a step further. We say it's humanity, but it's also equality and it's also nature. It's about putting yourself fourth. I am fourth after humanity, equality, and nature. So we're going to step back and say, these are some things that I put above the human. Humanism is not selfishness. Humanism provides a basic set of principles that most religious people would actually agree with, things like inclusion, things like freedom, right? That's what it means to be a secular voter. If you're a secular voter and those are your principles, you're very likely a humanist. Now, with that humanism, you can say, I am this way because of my religion. Well, guess what? That makes you a religious humanist. And when I say I'm a humanist based on my understanding of science and society and the way societies can make progress together, that makes me a secular humanist. But humanism is not out there forcing its beliefs on anyone. We have this.
And it can be a humanist without calling yourself a humanist by your actions.
Sure.
I mean, and then someone will say, well, he's a humanist.
Right.
He never heard even of the word humanist, but
But here's what it helps us with, and here's it's also a strategic thing as well, because I have a document hanging up on my wall I could grab if you want to see it, that is my certification from the Humanist Society to be granted the same rights in all 50 states in the United States as a member of clergy. So I have power. I can do last rites. I can do weddings, I can do funerals, and it's all accepted as a member of clergy. Why? Because I don't have a problem with saying there are some things I believe in, and it's not a religious ritual. It's not a cult. It's not something that I demand you to believe, but you know what? I think every human being should be treated equally. Call that a belief. Why are you afraid to say I believe that? No, that's common sense. No, it's not. Believe it or not, it's a way, it's a worldview that you hold. I believe people should treat each other with equality. Fine. I believe we should have the right to die with dignity. I don't think that if you are suffering with a terminal illness and you are mentally stable, that you should have to suffer and suffer and suffer until the last day that you die. We put dogs down. We even let convicted criminals who are on death row move up their death row date, their execution date, if they choose. They can write a letter to the governor and say, I want to be put to death within 60 days, and they will move up that death date to whenever that person wants to be killed. We respect prisoners' rights to do that. We will put dogs down. But a 4-year-old child who is slowly dying, no, we have to unplug her feeding machine and let her starve to death over 8 or 9 days, because that's how we treat human beings. That's horrific. As a humanist, I believe you have the right to die with dignity at your own choice. I don't believe suicide should be illegal. Okay, there are some basic humanist principles that I believe, but I'm not forcing that down anyone else's throat. That's what religion does. So don't ever get religion and humanism confused.
Cool. I'm just gonna acknowledge here that Astrokar and Joe are exchanging some thoughts on comparing secularism and humanism. Joe said, isn't secularism essentially an ethics code, the process of defining a society separate from religion? Maybe we don't need a separate umbrella term because we're talking about humanism first. Let
me respond to that, because
sure.
No, Joe, secularism is not a code of ethics at all. Secularism is just a lack of religion. That's all it is. When you hear a song on the radio that doesn't mention God, belief, religion, the Bible, the Quran, there's no religion in that song. It's secular. This microphone,
and that's what Astrokar said.
Yeah, this microphone is secular. I mean, that's all secularism means. So to be a secular voter just means your religion doesn't overly influence the way you vote. You can be a secular voter and a Christian. We have tons of them that are secular voters but Christian. So humanism is the code of ethics that comes to play whenever you start talking about morality and equality and inclusion and freedom and things like that.
Well, guys, we have to wrap it up. Just wanted to thank David again. It was great. I mean, we could go all night here. And please put me in the show.
Yeah, you need to come on the show. We need to make that happen.
I'm always available whenever you want. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. David, always a pleasure. I mean, it's been great. And I hope we can see each other when I'm in my next round of shooting. I'll be around America again. So hopefully we can get a cup of coffee or something.
That'd be fantastic. We definitely need to. All right.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Right.
Bye, everyone.